staff writer at Vanity Fair, and I am thrilled to moderate a discussion with some of the cast and creators of Wicked right now. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming to the stage Ethan Slater. Marissa Bode, who plays Nessa. We've got Jeff Goldblum, who plays the We have Ariana Grande. The only Cynthia Erivo. And we also have director Jon M. And for the audience, we have executive producer Marc Platt. Wow. Oh my gosh, this is truly a dream come true for little me. I saw Wicked for my 11th birthday in 2004 on Broadway. So thank you for that. Before we get it, I do want to say congratulations to Jon, who just welcomed his 5th child.
We got home last night, and she was like, please don't talk about the movie here, go over there. No
spoilers, no spoilers. Wow, oh my goodness. Well, there's so much to celebrate. I think it's fitting, we should take it back, at least to begin, to sort of the very beginning, because obviously, I mean, the work of art that we just saw on screen, it took a long time to get from the Broadway stage, to 21 years to get to this amazing finished product. So I'd love to start with Marc and ask you, was there ever a moment in those sort of 2 decades where you were like, this might not actually happen? Like, was there ever a moment where you lost faith that you would get to this moment that we're at right here?
I never lost faith. I was just patient, and I got to work with Stephen Schwartz and Winnie Holzman, and knew that Winnie would write the screenplay and do such. She was so prophetic what she wrote 25 years ago. It's like she wrote it today about the world we live in, and that's a credit to her. Stephen Schwartz as well, their vision. But I used to always, as we were making, I would say to Jon, we don't have to make the movie. And I always felt like I wanted to be a movie, but it had to be honor the material and honor my daughters, who I started in the beginning because I wanted them to see strong women portrayed on the screen. Power, which is what this is about. And I had to wait for Jon Chu. Thank goodness, thank God, he came to this beautiful, glorious, and talented group of actors. So that's my story.
Jon, your vision in terms of taking this sort of like gem of a Broadway show, beloved Broadway show, and expanding it and even bringing a new dimension to it is so fantastic. I'd love to know when you sort of first came on board, because you've had a long history with Wicked too. You saw it in 2003, an out-of-town tryout. How did you know what to do with the stage adaptation? Where did you begin your artistic journey with this film?
Well, I was a fan. I saw it in San Francisco, like you said, and it just blew me away sitting in the dark watching it. It swept me away like movies when I was a little kid, and it was live theater. And even to today, I will when we were making the movie, I would remember what it felt like to see her float in the bubble coming down. What it felt like when she rose into the sky. And in my mind, I was like, oh, she flies around, right? No, she goes up on a ride. I'm like, I swear she flew around. And I think that was the main thing, is the translation. And everyone, Wizard of Oz is so personal to everybody. It's personal to my family, as immigrants, that my family came over, that Wizard of Oz, the Yellow Brick Road, the wizard that would give you your heart's desire. It is. We all have our pieces in this. It's the American fairy tale about the American dream, and where we are. Even what's interesting about the timelessness of it is that yes, what's happening now didn't exist when they wrote it, but these scenarios always did, and everyone always rose above it. The resilience of the people always rose above it, and I love that we get to remind people of that you have to just keep walking. So for me, it was, how do you get the big scope and use the tools of cinema to sweep people away? I really believe that movies, I saw it with Crazy Rich Asians, really can change things, really can make a difference. When you see that, there's no going back. And with Oz, even more so, like how do we get us fully in there? And then the second part was, how do you bring together a cast that can connect this material to the human body? And these girls, and this whole cast here does it in every single one. The wounds that they have to expose in this, take a character that's fluffy and whatever, and then bring in their own life to connect. It's like this, they have like literally a back channel to the soul, and that's not easy work. That how specific words that we've heard so many times, and tunes that we've heard so many times, and movements that you expect, to make it so specific to themselves and their lives and what they're going through right now at this moment was masterful to watch. And comedy in itself is, they say comedy is tragedy without dignity. And to see Glinda slowly but surely remove the dignity and the reality of what that actually feels like is masterful in itself. And then to see her rise and remind us all of the power that we have. I think that to me was the biggest thing, was the secret to it all.
Oh, so well said. I'm like, it's so cool just to be sitting with both Cynthia and Ariana. Just your performances are so grounded. I think what makes a movie star to me is somebody who can make the little moments feel big and expansive and make the big, world grounded and truthful, and you both do that so beautifully in the film. And I would love to sort of go back to sort of the origin of your relationship, because you didn't screen test together, you didn't audition together, you were sort of both plucked and chosen by this really smart man right here to play these roles. So I would love to go back to sort of the beginning of your origin story together as a team, because that's such a crux of the film.
I guess when we knew that we were cast, Ari came over to my house. We sat on my floor and we chatted for 5 hours, indeed. And it was really easy. And I think for us, it was sort of at the beginning of a really beautiful friendship and partnership within this.
Yeah, and we were very real, from the start. And of course, we laughed and we loved each other immediately, but we also had a very real conversation about taking care of each other and being honest when things are hard or if you're having a bad day.
Making space for each other.
Yeah.
And just making sure that we provided for each other the ecosystem from which we could thrive with each other. Yeah.
We needed to feel very safe.
Yeah.
And we worked hard to do that. Yeah.
You can feel that on the screen. And I also, as a true Wicked head, we play around with Elphaba roulette. I've seen so many people sing these songs, and every actress, hundreds of actresses have made these parts their own, but never on this sort of scale, right? So I would love to hear, we know these songs, we love these songs. How did you navigate, both Cynthia and Ariana, putting your own spin on something and putting your definitive, version of the song out, while also staying true to the gorgeous music that Stephen Schwartz created?
Well, I think that was something that was so important to us every step of the way, was honoring the source material. As fans, we've loved it for such a long time. It's the most beloved thing, and you know, it really raised us in certain ways, and it's always been a safe space for us. This music, this story, these characters. But it was important to us to kind of let go of that, so that we could bring our own truth and honesty to these women, and play and make new choices. And we have Jon to thank for that, because he invited it so full-heartedly. He was like, "Dad, play more of that. That is so cool." And you know, he was just like a kind of a kid in a playground. I don't know. But there was so much room to play and find that balance, because we love and respect the material so much, but we also wanted to find our own truth to it, of course. And yeah, I think that came from our relationship.
And I think that we were lucky enough to have Stephen Erivo and Stephen Schwartz, who created the movie. And both Ari and I really wanted to honor the music that had come before, and as we were, you know, advancing on the music and doing our pieces and singing, Stephen Schwartz would be like, "Yes, and more." And more. The wonderful thing that he said, I remember, he said that he believed in our storytelling, so he trusted what we could do, and that whatever we would do wouldn't be too much or too far, because we knew that we were doing it in service to the storytelling and the truth of the songs and what they mean. And then you get on set, when we're then allowed, because we did everything live, then Jon would be like, "Just take it, go even slower. Just take that, your time with that, live in that," which meant that we could really dive into the emotion of the pieces and tell the story with each other and live in the moment to moment, from word to word, so that we could really actually breathe ourselves into the songs. Yeah.
Wow, I love that. And I want to talk a little bit about what it was like to be on set, and also like the sheer feat of doing the vocals live and also recording the vocals live, because as you've said, you know, you gotta be good at there's no, is that lip synced right, or that vowel is weird, which happens in movie musicals. We see that sometimes. Can you talk about sort of the technology and okay, when you make that decision, they're like, all right, we're singing live, let's go. How do you warp the set and make it so that it not only looks good, but sounds amazing?
Well, we had the best people
That's right.
in the world to do this. Simon Hayes, who was recording it live for us, he's a mastermind. He would get very angry if anyone made any noises, including the birds and the rafters. When she would sing, the birds would sing. He put on these sounds of birds of prey to scare the birds. And she's like, "The birds are with me. Stop it, Simon." So there's a lot of technical stuff like that, but we didn't plan this before. We do pre-records to have for rehearsals and to be ready. And at first I'm like, "Listen, we have the pre-records. We're gonna throw wind at you. You're gonna be on rigs. You're gonna be doing all this stuff. Like, you don't have to do it." And I think the first day we started shooting, and I think it was like popular, and we started doing it, and we had trouble a little bit getting in. She's like, I just want to like slow it down. I just want it, so we have a live pianist there all the time, anytime watching. And then they have their earwigs, and the moment that they took off that veil, and by the way, this is extremely hard skill set to have, because you have to, your voice has to be second. That's the easy part for you, and that's the easy part for them. But it's not easy for everybody, so you have to have at that level first. Yeah. And then once you started doing it, they got to plug into their character and just almost speak it, and the music just emerges from them, and that's where the magic happens. That's where the technical stuff doesn't matter at all. And the fact that we could have that ability to do that, and they had the ability to switch on a dime, and we did that every day. One day we were like, "Okay, let's do it another day." We did it again. You're like, "Oh yeah, this is kind of working for us," and we just kept doing it. And I think that's what we feel.
You really can.
The Grips were singing in the corners, popular. They were like bouncing to their cars.
The birds, and even the birds. Wow. Oh gosh, I love that. You know, I'm a theater kid. I went to theater camp. I want to sort of talk about what it must have been like to have been on the set for you. You guys filmed this for like 2 years. You were there for a while, for a long time. So I want to open it up to Jeff and Marissa and Ethan. What was it like to spend so much time together? Together filming this project? It sort of seemed to be like this is probably like the best theater camp experience of all time, potentially. Jeff, take it away.
Yes, I know I got COVID. Well, a dream come true, Yes, I'm a theater kid, having gotten the bug. Very emotional. Especially this show, I was in, a box of Kleenex, moist and wet, and the first time I saw it. But then, with these practitioners, with Jon at the helm, and it was very beautiful. It was a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Very, very beautiful. And Jon was great. Do you remember in rehearsal, I'm nothing if not conscientious, and I had worked on my part, including, although I respected, I was devoted, worshipped the material, and Dana Fox's and your script, but I kind of tinkered with it, and then I came, and what I had done when I first saw you, I knew you were busy, I recorded everybody else's parts, and I did my whole part, in both shows, I think, and kind of to show you my current thinking and all of the, some little change. We said, good, and then called in the women a couple of days later, or maybe then said, do everything we're doing, just go along with him, something like that. And then, I had a lot of bad ideas, even on the set that he was cordial to, but then finally, thank goodness, cut me into something that looked okay.
Those sessions were the best. I mean, it's a one-man show of Wicked from his voice from his voice. This is not a joke. It's true. And then when these girls came in, and again, it was that sense of play. It was summer camp. And when you got to play, and you got to release all the stuff. It's already in our hearts, but you got to release all the other stuff, and we got to create from the ground up. And to me, that was the best part of finding this new wizard. And who is he? And is he actually bad? Or is it, how far will a storyteller go if he loves people loving him, and if he loves to entertain? If violence, if a villain, how far will you go? What will you cross to get there? He'd give me that look.
Well, it's a very interesting question. I'm more curious than ever right now, even though it doesn't make any difference now, but I'm...
Let's do part two, Jeff, to see.
Okay, we'll continue to talk about it.
You have to release the Jeff Goldblum cut. You have to release. I gotta see it
right now.
I'm gonna see
Go to iCloud.
You have the mainframe. We can get that. That's so fantastic. Marissa, it's so inspiring, so wonderful. Yeah, give it up for Marissa. This is your feature film debut. To see differently able people on screen is not something we get to see, not nearly enough. And for you to also to fill out the role in such a beautiful way for your first film role, that's really impressive. What was it like when you got the call? You're like, hey, I'm going to be in a movie with Jeff Goldblum and Michelle Yeoh, and also Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, and just big stars.
Pooping my pants for sure. Absolute shock. But also just like so exciting and incredible and wonderful. It means so much to me to be representation for a lot of people out there and to be part of a major film like this. I really hope to be part of the change in the future so that more disabled people can be cast in things and be a part of that change. And what was really special the other night in Los Angeles at the LA premiere, I had my wonderful girlfriend with me who's also disabled, and seeing Minnie Nessa on screen was just so special because, and she ended up like breaking down in tears just seeing that moment because it's like seeing her inner child and seeing a part of her that she also didn't see on screen growing up. And for me, it was almost a little bit healing also. So to have that was just, to see sort of a younger version of myself, that was just so cool. And then hopefully having this kind of representation can embolden other disabled people to feel less alone and to advocate for themselves and ask for their accommodations and know that they're not asking for too much when they're asking for their basic human rights.
Thank you. That was so cool. I gotta say, wow, it was really beautiful and really well put. Ethan, it's sort of it's so fantastic. We're fantastic in the film. Maybe a little bit of an odd question. when you found out that the Munchkins were all sort of going to aesthetically look like you, with the hair, and that's how we were doing Munchkins, what was that sort of like for you?
Worst thing that's ever happened to me.
I love it.
No, it was
We've never talked about this.
It was a crazy day. It was maybe one of my first days there, and I sat down with a friend who was like, so we're thinking we have two thoughts. Either like, can I say what the other thoughts were? Either like, you know, blue hair or something like that, or maybe like red curly hair with freckles and brown eyes. I was like, the second one sounds way easier. And it turns out it wasn't. It turns out it was 2.5 hours every day in the chair to make my hair look like that. But it was really cool. I don't know. I feel it's like such an honor to grow up like with Munchkins as such a huge part of not just my theatrical journey, but just like a big cultural thing, and then to be able to be a part of that, and also to sort of have that look was crazy. I don't actually know how to answer that. It's so weird.
That was really perfect. As you said, you haven't talked about that yet. So-
But it wasn't just his look; it was his joy and his optimism. Like these people are somebody that you have to care about in Oz, and they cultivate the joy, the colors, the honey, the whatever, and that really did come from every time I would talk to Ethan. It was like, oh yeah, he's like this Buster Keaton, like he's so good. He has this thing. What can we add into this culture, and not just a thing that you walk into?
I mean, it was a really special thing to talk with you about that, because it was like, I feel like you could approach something like this and just sort of show up and do the thing. But we sat down for 2 or 3 hours on the same day that I arrived, and you walked me through all your plans, you walked everyone through all your plans, and then we talked about, okay, what does it mean for you to be a Munchkin? You know, they started like that basic, like agrarian people. What does it mean for you to feel lonely? What does it mean for you to feel out of place? Like, what do you do with that? Where do you feel at home? And so, like, even for these moments, just everyone was given that sort of attention and care, and taken seriously in that way. And I think it gave the whole thing such a rich nuance and texture that I was so grateful for from the jump.
Oh, that's so wonderful. I love what you said. Because it's so clear how physical this film was. I mean, the sets, the train, the yellow brick road, the thousands and thousands of flowers. There's so many.
9 million.
Millions. I'll see myself. Millions of flowers. 9 million flowers. Can you talk about sort of the importance that you put on actually physically creating the world, and not, filling it in post or making it overly CGI, because it makes such a big difference for us in the audience.
Well, I felt it was my duty in a way, because when you talk about Oz, we've seen it in many different forms. But when we're talking to this cast and to these ladies specifically from the very beginning, they wanted to create from the inside out. They wanted to create real characters, not a stereotype of some sort. And that means that Oz has to be real. That's their grounding station. So what is Oz? And we all have a different relationship with Oz, the colors, the thing. And what we did was we really looked at Oz and said, okay, what is the wounds of Oz? What is this friend that we've known but not known? And what are the people, and how do they struggle together or apart? And in order to do that, we had to actually build cultures. We had to build Munchkins. We had to build what Emerald City was, how diverse or how ambitious those people were. We had to build what the wizard was bringing to that. And that meant you had to touch it and feel it. And we wanted the ground to be dirty. You wanted to have dust and scratches in these places. And for us, it gave us a touchstone so that they can then build characters, real characters that can have real reactions to certain things. And yes, that's part of actually, even the process of acting it, to see a giant wizard head that actually moves, which took a crazy amount of engineering, or the boxes in Popular. It seems simple, but they were like giant men in small spaces and wiring that could crush your toes if you get too close. And the chandelier had a guy up there for safety to spin her around, because she's actually very, very high. These things were there in place so that we could take the characters seriously. And I think the credit to Marc, who defended us against the studio in every way. Our ambition was, we're shooting the moon. This is Ben-Hur, this is Lawrence of Arabia. You get one shot, this is legacy. And that hopefully gave us a little bit of a palette for them to play.
It was very real. I walked in on a Munchkin taking a nap. In Munchkin Land. And there was a munchkin sleeping. Anyway.
I would just to say to all these folks here, and when you ask about sets and honesty and acting and theater camp, that it was very moving for me, sort of being the parent of the group, and from the beginning all the way to now, to appreciate every day these folks would come to work led by this man and say, we have a legacy to fulfill, we have people who love these characters and love this world, and films that have been made many, many years ago that people look up to, and this is a legacy we have to step into. And every one of these folks, I always felt they were doing something bigger than them and more important, and they gave it so much of themselves, and the resources we had were in service of all of that and all of the great work that these people did led by him. And it's particularly very moving to me to feel that, and now the world gets to feel that love and passion, and that you've created your own legacy.
Wow, I think that was so beautiful and well put. I do think, I would be remiss to not mention, after the week that we've had in this country, we're all looking for something to escape to. But you watch the movie, you're like, wow, this is actually a story about these times right now. Sort of thinking about the wizard and a leader who has created a cult of personality and makes people do whatever he wants. It's one of those films that it's so beautiful, and it is escapist, but also I do think the message, sort of now more than ever, we need to sort of engage with this. So I guess, Jeff, I'll throw it to you. Did you think about the sort of deeper societal implications when taking on a role like the wizard? Or?
Yes. And it's, of course, timeless. People have always, tried to enhance their status and their power and demonized others, and we have all sorts of stories about that. But this movie's theme, one of the themes, I think, is that nobody's all good or all bad. And sometimes when you play even a so-called bad guy, as we all know, the cliche is, but it's true, you have to, if you're that person, you justify what you're doing, and it's complicated. In this, my relationship with Madame Marble, and who knows how that started, and what that's going to be, and all of that. And there's an issue. I say that people, give people a good enemy, and that'll bring them together. Well, we start to do it at the beginning, and maybe it's hard driving a more malevolent force. But during these 4 years, but between now and the second one, we essentially make up this story that sacrifices poor Elphaba, but it's essentially the story of the Wizard of Oz. We sort of make up the Wizard of Oz, which has brought a lot of people together. And as Yuval Harari says, stories from the start with Homo sapiens have been for bad and for good sometimes. And this issue of the animals, I know it's a big thing. And we seem to think that the stormtroopers are horrible and the dumb guy who brings in the cage. But I wonder if it's worth considering that I think, given where I come from, animals were superior to Homo sapiens and not sentient in the way that we understood and beyond language. And so maybe tinkering with genetics and doing a little crate training can solve part of the problem that besets Oz when I get there. With the drought and everything, everybody's at each other. Anyway.
Peaking your brain, I love it. Wow, I think this film, I know we have to sort of wrap up soon, and there's a million questions about every scene and every moment. It's all so artfully put together, and it becomes such even more than some of its parts, and all the parts are so wonderful too. And there's another part still yet to go. So I guess for those looking forward to this time next year, I guess I'll ask Cynthia and Ariana, what more is in store? Because it feels like you gave everything for this, but what more is in store?
Well, we've only really just begun to sort of crack open the relationship that these two women have. They have such a long way to grow, and they have more heartbreak, they have more love, they have more learning to do. I think that their darkness is explored, they grow and they grow up. And what that means to them is very different to what you see here. And I'm really excited for everyone to see that sort of exploration. We were sort of given carte blanche in this second piece to really just stretch our wings. One thing that came to mind when Marc was lauding us and giving us wonderful praise here is that when we would, a lot of our discussions would happen in my trailer. Like if I had an idea about what was coming or what older Elphaba needed or wanted or would grow into, he would happily come and sit by my side as I was getting greenified and just discuss an idea, even if it was just about a piece of clothing or a hairstyle that would influence and change the way she moved or how she looked or the extent of her vulnerability, because that's something that I really wanted to explore with Elphaba, just her vulnerability more, let it be on the outside, because I think that we think of Elphaba one way, and what I wanted to do is sort of crack that open just a little bit so that you could see the whole human being, not just the emblem for what she has been in the past. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I was just gonna say that I heard something today that I thought was really fascinating, that like, we all live in our own realities, and that we have different villains, we have different heroes, and they are, we need each other, is what I heard today, and I thought that was really beautiful. Even though it feels sometimes like the end, that there's so much more to do, and I love the story because we need our Elphabas and our Glindas. We need our Glindas to pop their bubbles, and we need our Elphabas to stand tall and keep going. And I love that in this movie that we get to show the choice, how difficult it is to when it is revealed that what you thought is that the yellow brick road may not be the only path, that actually maybe it was never made for you. And that maybe the wizard isn't someone there on the other side of the curtain to save you, that you have to save yourself. And I think that Ari and Cynthia, they embody these two different sides of yourself when you are confronted with that. It's not about the plotting, it's actually about what do you do when you're in this situation. Once you know the truth, every actor has a moment when they wake up and ask a first real question in Oz. And then the question is, okay, now that you know the truth, what do you do? And so everybody reacts in a different way. And I think that place that we're in right now is so interesting. Again, it is timeless because it's repetitive, but the resilience of people, and that when you decide, I'm gonna walk my own road, and I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna gather, and I'm gonna just keep walking, to me that there is no happy ending necessarily, that life is beautiful because it's a bunch of to be continued over and over again. And I love that they just keep revealing. And I think movie 2 builds on consequences and how hard it is when you decide to take a certain road that nobody else wants you to take.
Wow, well, I think with that, Well, we all join in thanking, we all just keep stepping into it. Congratulations.